So today we are going to learn about the Stanford Prison Experiment, conformity to social role. So the Stanford Prison Experiment 1971 is a psychological study which was conducted by Philip Zimbardo and investigate how people are conformed to social role. The prisoners and guard are just the social roles. The university students took part as a prisoners or the guard role, and then he just want to see how far these students are conforming to their social role. So this is the actually the university students, and they they are just looks like the prisoners, and in this side the guards. I mean the university students act as a guard, and this is Zimbardo. So the to explore how situational factors and assigned roles influence behaviors, particularly whether people behave brutally because of their personality traits or because of their situation they are placed in. So he wants to identify is it like their personality traits, or if any situations comes, then the people are just changing their behaviors according to the situation. So he wants to see, yeah. So that's the main idea of his experiment. So because of the learning objective, I want to find out again the learning objectives is understand the concept of conformity to social role, describe the Stanford Prison Experiment 1971 conducted by Philip Zimbardo, and evaluate the ethical considerations and implications of the experiment, apply knowledge of social roles real world context. So for example, if I ask you, what would you do if you are randomly assigned the role of a prison guard? How do you think you would behave? Or if you are a prisoner, how would you respond to strict rules and authority? So it's just like the situations make us to just perform accordingly. So that's how he wants to actually investigate. Uh, so the conformity to social role investigated by Zimbardo. So it's 24 male college students were selected from a pool of volunteers for their psychological stability and assigned randomly to either guards or prisoners in a mock prison setup in the basement of Stanford University Psychology Department. The prisoners were arrested at their homes by real police, booked and taken to the mock prison. Guards were given uniforms, whistles, and mirrored sunglasses to establish authority, while the prisoners were mocked and were identified by numbers only. Okay, so these are the summary of the experiment, and so I want to just find the findings. So the key learning point is psychological research suggests that we conform to the social role faster than we expect, right? So it's just from this experiment he found that obviously, I mean the prisoners are just conforming their social role obviously faster than they expect, and also the guards are obviously using their powers, right? uh, all all of the participants are, I mean all of the participants were aware about their actors, right? It's not like they already know this is obviously not like a mock actual prison. It's a mock prison, they already know everything, but still there will be lots of conflict and problems came across this experiment. So you can see this prisoner's uniform and the guard's uniform, and the guards are representing the power, and it's just like because of the power that I mean the dress code allowing them to just showing their powers, right? And the prisoners are called by numbers, not their names, right? So I just want to make sure group discussion, do people truly act according to personality or situation shaped behaviors? So the studies demonstrate the power of situational factors in influencing behavior, leading to de-individuation and loss of personal identity. Prisoners became passive, submissive, and distressed, some experiencing emotional breakdowns. Guards became authoritarian and uh, abusive. Okay, so the thing is, you have to discuss it within the group and see whether when you, because you type the Zimbardo studies in YouTube and you can see the real studies and lots of the actual situations where the participants undergone. So you can see the one, and also you can discuss about uh, anything like situational factors, or maybe anything like lost their self identity, or lots of things there, lots of ethical implications there are in the studies. So let's go to the next slide and see. So when you do any psychological research, and of course we need to follow the ethical guidelines, right? So that's really important. So in order to do any researches, you obviously follow these ethical guidelines, right? First of all, the concern, right? Concern is like a, you know you are getting the approval from the participants, isn't it? So whenever possible, researchers should inform all the participants about the objectives of the experiment, right? That is the concern, right? The next one is the deception. Deception in psychological research occurs when participants are misled or not fully informed about the true purpose of the study. This is sometimes necessary to prevent bias or unnatural behavior that could affect the validity of the results. Example, providing false information. So, for example, yeah, telling the participant the study is about memory when it's actually about obedience. So it's just like Milgram studies. Obviously, we just went through the Milgram study. He called for the participants for the memory studies, but actually he measured obedience, right? So this is called the deception, right? Uh, the participants were misled to the experiment, right? So yeah. So the debriefing is participants must receive a debriefing after the study when the true purpose is explained. So actually once the research finished, then you, of course, the participants supposed to be, debriefed, and then we need to make sure any psychological stress or any psychological problem the participants causing any problem, if participants just find any problem, then definitely we need to just look at their problem and solve their problem, or send them counseling, or anything you need to do an action, right? That's your responsibility. Yeah, if you are a researcher, you definitely do that. So, and also the next one is I can mention withdraw from experiment. If participants feel uncomfortable during the experiment, then obviously they allow to go, right? Anytime. Yeah, participants have the right to withdraw from an experiment at any time without facing any pressure or negative consequences. This ensures that participants is voluntary and that individuals are not forced to continue if they feel uncomfortable or distressed. So anytime they can just just give up and they can go, right? They can also request their data be removed after withdrawal. Okay. So these are the ethical guidelines, because of when we see these Zimbardo experiments, obviously they just he forgot to follow some of the ethical guidelines. So the finding is, so after this experiment, he just assigned the participants, and half of the participant act as a prisoner and half of them are guard. Then what happened? Because of rapid transformation of behavior due to social roles, and because of the participants just so, participant they just took their roles and then they act accordingly. And de-intuition is like the participants are lost their control, lost their awareness, right? That's called the de-intuition. And also conformity to expectations, right? We just participants are just behave what obviously expected to behave, right? Ethical concern, just it's like a psychological harm was, some participants experience psychological harm. So I can just finalize that one as finding is the participants quickly adapt their roles Guards became increasingly abusive, authoritarian, and dehumanizations toward the prisoners. While the prisoners become submissive, anxious, and depressed, some prisoners showed extreme emotional distress and had to be released early. The experiment, intended to last 2 weeks, was terminated after just 6 days due to the participants' deteriorating mental health and the escalating aggression. Yeah. So these are the questions. The first question is, who conducted the Stanford Prison Experiment? Uh, Philip Zimbardo, isn't it? In which year was the Stanford Prison Experiment conducted? 1971. And what psychological concept was the focus of the Stanford Prison Experiment? To see how people are conforming to social role, right? Where was the Stanford Prison Experiment conducted? In Stanford University basement, right? And next one is, what was the simulated environment used in Stanford Prison Experiment? The fake university basement was used, and they just built a fake prison there. Okay, and also there are guards and prisoners there, and also Zimbardo is act as a superintendent role. At the meantime, he is the experimenter and the superintendent role. So the Stanford Prison Experiment found that participants quickly adapt their assigned role, with guards becoming abusive and prisoners showing signs of extreme stress. The situations, rather than individual personality, heavily influenced behavior. Power of dynamics escalated rapidly even without real authority. The study revealed how environments can foster dehumanization and loss personal identity. So this is happening everywhere, not only the prison. It's happening everywhere because if anyone have a power, then they use the power, right, for the innocent people, or or they just use their power to the innocent people, right? So and also they use the even though they have a different personality, when the situations come, they use a different. They use their uh, power to just control the people. Yeah, the Stanford Prison Experiment raised several ethical issues, including lack of informed consent, which means, like, he didn't fully explain what is going to happen or what is the experiment for, right? So the participants are blindly accept the Zimbardo's agreement, and then they just they're young, then they obviously they just want to just participate, right? So so therefore, as the participants were not fully aware of what the study would involve. Okay, and also during the experiment, it's just like there was a psychological harm with some prisoners showing extreme stress because they were act as the prisoners, and the guard were obviously controlled them and gave them punishment. Some of the one or two participants were just put in a solitary confinement by the guards. The prisoners were put in the solitary confinement by the guard because because they think like this is how you need to behave. If you become a guard, then obviously you need to do these things if the prisoners are listening, obeying their orders, right? So that is completely unethical. And also the prisoners obviously try to just go, just they are begging the guards to go home, and but the guards are just hesitate to just to send them home, and also Zimbardo also not to just accept their uh, he didn't accept this like to go home, like he just observing them, right? He just was observing them, and they just, even though if they just undergo psychological stress, he's not bothering about. Only the thing is, Zimbabwe, this experiment was just stopped because when Zimbardo's girlfriend attended the prison, I mean this fake prison, then she's the one who just tried to stop this experiment. Okay, so it's really really important. This is showing that he was conducted obviously the unethical experiment here. And also Zimbardo's dual role as a researcher and prison superintendent created a conflict of interest. The study highlighted the need for strict ethical guidelines and psychological research because of in terms of the prisoner's mindset. When you see the prisoner's mindset, they feel like more, victimized mindset, and they just, they just come for the just an experiment. But finally they end up with psychological, traumatic experience, right? So it's really, really unethical experiment. Yeah. So now we are going to just, come to the conclusion. So before I'm ending, then I'm just giving some questions, right? Which is, what is the most important lesson from the Stanford Prison Experiment? How does this change your view of human behavior? So, what is the most important lesson from Stanford Prison Experiment? Remember this one. And how does this change your view of human behavior? So, what lesson can society learn from this study to prevent similar abuse of power in institutions today? So, to to answer these questions, right, it's really important accountability and supervision. So the accountability is the supervision is really important to monitoring people in power. Yeah, for example, prison guards or police officers or military person. So we need to just we use the authority people to check these people and how they are just using their powers to the prisoners. Oh yeah, so this is really important, right? Otherwise, abuse will happen, right? So the next one is training and awareness. So those in the position of authority should receive training on ethics, power dynamics, and psychological influences to prevent dehumanization and encourage empathy. Of course, the training is really important. So the power people, the people are who in the power are supposed to just, give training and the awareness about how to just, use the powers. And if you misuse the powers, also what will happen? They need to know if they are misusing the powers, then what will happen? Okay, the consequences. You need to make you need to make sure the consequences, right? So that's really important. The next one is strong ethical guidelines. So clear ethical standards and the oversights should be in place, prevent harm in control environments such as workplaces, prisons, and research studies. So it's also really important that we always make sure the clear ethical guidelines to just to in the prison setting, the police officers need to know what are the limits they can just use their powers. And also, if for example, if you doing a psychological research, then you obviously psychological as a researcher, they need to understand what are the ethical guidelines. They need to just look at that and follow that. That's really important because it's just if if anything happened bad or psychological, any participants got psychological problem, then it's they are the researchers is the responsible, isn't it? So they need to make sure. Okay, so these are the of course the Zimbabwe prison experiment in psychology studies is allow other people to understand, or allowing the world to understand how the normal ordinary people can change their behaviors in certain situations, right? How the power is changing the human behaviors, and also how people are conforming to their social role. So I think I just finish my lesson today, then I'll just come with the other new video clip. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you.